Solidarity comrades, it's me, Connor. Back for my first serious video in a while that involves my own, is that a fly? My own personal thoughts. Today I'm going to talk about, in light of recent events over the past, almost half a year now in Hong Kong, and the history of Hong Kong, its class character, and those responsible for this antagonistic contradiction that has arisen. So, before anything, you have to understand why Hong Kong is different than the rest of China. I think many people probably already have an idea, but many don't, so I'm going to explain this, that at the end of the Qing dynasty, which was the early 20th century, and at the end of the 19th century, the colonialist powers of the world invaded the Qing dynasty to exert their neo-colonialist, imperialist ambitions in the region. It was most of the great powers from the West and Japan involved in this. And out of this, the British signed a treaty with the Chinese, and one of the stipulations was to hand over the port of Hong Kong to the British Empire for a 100-year lease. So, in the late 90s, this lease was coming to an end. And throughout this century, even after New China, because of Hong Kong's status as a British colony, China, the PRC could not very well go into there and take it back without massive repercussions after they just finished a civil war. So, what's important is Hong Kong became a hyper-capitalist haven for all of those after the revolution that wanted to go against socialism. And so it has become a safe haven for, the ultra-wealthy, crime gangs, and even lowly criminals like someone we're going to talk about later in this video. So whenever Hong Kong was handed back to China in the late 90s, the elite of Hong Kong freaked out, of course. They didn't want to lose their status, and the PRC, under Jiang Zemin, recognized that just immediately changing that system would be detrimental to the stability in that region, because we can see that over the years it's been a powder keg of reactionary violence, and that is what the Chinese government's been trying to avoid all this time, while slowly integrating them from the One China 2 systems to One China 1 system. So this animosity that grew from being returned to communist China led the elites and others to start forming alliances with Western hegemonic powers, namely the United States and Britain, and organizations like the National Endowment for Democracy from the United States, which is a Reagan-founded organization that funds right-wing regime changes across the world if they go against the United States imperialist policy. And sorry about that fly. So these groups are being fed these ideas over these years, and it's been 2 generations. This is the 3rd generation of Hong Kongers that are from the original time that Hong Kong was a colony under the British. And so this current young generation of the privileged capitalist elite, which their parents are of the generation that was under colonialism, they're also being taught this same ideal and to hate that these people are going to take their privilege away. They have no idea. Someone like me who has lived in mainland China, these people have never lived in mainland China. They're very young. They've never left Hong Kong, and if they have, it's probably been to the West. And they have this impression in their head, just like many young Americans or many other people raised in the West, of this anti-communist vitriol, this right-wing ideals, and they don't quite understand the fact. Well, they're being taught, but I was going to say that they don't quite understand, but that's actually not true. Now that I'm thinking about it, they do very much understand what they're doing. They're in class solidarity with the bourgeoisie, and they want to retain that power. And these university students that are and older Hong Kongers that are of the bourgeois class, that is what the majority of them are, because the bourgeois class flooded to Hong Kong after 1949, after the revolution. And so you have this huge bourgeois class, but you have this other silent and very large majority that is the working class of Hong Kong. You ask the working class of Hong Kong, are you Chinese? They'll say, yes, I'm Chinese. I'm a Guangdong person. I'm from Hong Kong, but I am Chinese. You ask a bourgeois person from Hong Kong, are you Chinese? And they'll get offended at you. So it's almost like a bourgeois nationalism based purely not on nationality, but purely off of the class divide. And so you have this combination of this history, the bourgeois class character, and the funding from Western right-wing regime change entities that have been responsible for coups and death across the world. You look at this and you realize it's not a popular movement. I've been to Hong Kong. I lived in Guangdong, South China, right by Hong Kong for many, many, many years. There is a distinct class divide that does not exist in mainland, that exists in Hong Kong. And you realize that these people that are out there, they are of the bourgeoisie. They're not allies for freedom. They're not anarchists. They're not to be, you see anarchists and Trotskyists supporting this. These are not even in line with, well, maybe to Trotskyism, but this isn't even in line with anarchism. These people want a liberal democracy ruled by the right-wing bourgeoisie. So, the class character of the Hong Kong protests is one of bourgeois. The silent majority is the class character of the working class. The silent majority is only silent because the Western news doesn't report on them. But you go there and you find peaceful mass rallies in support of mainland China, in support of this law. Now, this brings me to my final point, is that this place is a haven for debauchery, to say the least. I don't know, find it a different way, but you know, like Tatooine in Star Wars, you know, it's just a haven for people like that because it is not fully integrated into the efficient system that Beijing runs on. So what happened is a Taiwan Chinese person who is a citizen of the Republic of China, which is an illegal state inside of Taiwan province of the People's Republic of China that is being supported by the West, murdered his pregnant girlfriend. He fled to Hong Kong. The government in Beijing wanted to work with the autonomous Hong Kong government and police to send him back. Well, they wanted to, the right-wing bourgeoisie protesters took advantage of this and took all the money they've been building up from the National Endowment of Democracy and the Chinese and the Hong Kong bourgeoisie to fund these violent protests. They are paying. These are all paid stooges. All of these young people and students you see out there burning, they're being paid. All these people are like, unless you're in a union, there's no way for you to support yourself inside this situation and continue protesting unless you are a part of an organized, coherent entity such as the uprisings of a working class character in Chile, Ecuador, Uruguay, and Lebanon, Iraq. I can't speak on Iraq. I'm sorry. I haven't done enough research. But in places like that, these are of a working class character. So, the working class character of these things is also being successful because of their previous organization and solidarity that has been set up in their society throughout the years. This is purely paying a group of people to revolt against the government to instill foreign interests. If you are for the Hong Kong protesters, you're not a comrade of mine, you are pro-imperialist, and you're supporting right-wing racism, and you should be ashamed of yourself. But if you understand the class character of this conflict, then show your solidarity and support the Hong Kong police, support the government in Beijing, support the Hong Kong government, and stand with the working class of Hong Kong and not the bourgeois class of Hong Kong. Solidarity, comrades, thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon.